neighborhoods that never thought that they would actually become, once again, very attractive places for people to live and work. We're seeing that in College Hill because we are investing. We're seeing that in places like East Price Hill because we're investing. We're seeing it in places like Westwood, Bond Hill, Avondale. The list goes on. We also have developed innovative funding techniques, such as Focus 52, that makes it possible for neighborhood development to be done on the par of downtown and over the Rhine.
Andrea Ladott Blackman of the Cincinnati Herald will pose the next question, and Mr. Cranley will respond first. Andrea.
Okay, Mr. Cranley. One of our largest companies, Chiquita, left Cincinnati. What are you planning to do to court other companies to Cincinnati and to ensure that they increase jobs in the area?
Well, I think the fact is that Chiquita left in large part because of lack of flights at CVG. And I think a major priority of the mayor is to work with our regional partners at the Chamber of Commerce and elsewhere to try to get more flights. And I'm glad about the announcement today of more flights at CVG. And I promise that I will make that a priority. I also think that as we invest strategically, we've got to balance our budget, get us out of the credit default downgrade that my opponent has brought upon us. And we have to invest in the things that will grow our whole region, I-71, Martin Luther King, Brent Spence Bridge. And in a collaborative way, work with the chamber and with our congressional delegation to align our priorities. You know, my opponent said the first thing she would do if she's elected is go and ask for more money for the streetcar from Washington. I think we need to build Brent Spence Bridge. I think we need to work with our congressional delegation to get I-71 Martin Luther King built. I think we need to make sure that the Western Hills Viaduct, 50,000 cars every day, gets rebuilt. And by the way, the congressional delegation agrees with me. So let's align our priorities and help bring economic activity to our city.
And Ms. Qualls, your rebuttal for 90 seconds.
The priority for the mayor is to grow jobs, grow residents, and grow business in the city of Cincinnati, and always do it with an eye to the future and what we are going to become as a community. And so what we have to do if we're talking about really growing jobs is not look to the past, but rather look to the future. And we know that in Cincinnati, in this community, the place where we need to be investing our money and being strong partners with the private sector is in supporting the startups and the innovative companies that we see at the Brandery and Centrifuge. It's also being strong partners with the University of Cincinnati as well as Cincinnati Children's Hospital to help them turn all of the research that comes out of the uptown area into actual commercial products that can make profits because they are useful products for people. We can be a partner with that. And in the meantime, we can also be a partner with the surrounding neighborhoods as they benefit from the infusion and growth of new workers as well as potentially new residents in that entire uptown area. The other thing we need to do is to invest in the fundamental infrastructure that allows us to support residential development as well as business and job development. That's one of the reasons why a top priority for the parking fund is to invest in the Martin Luther King interchange. We will provide the local match. It's also the reason why we will invest in the streetcar, because it will grow our economy and it will attract residents, which will give us the resources to invest in further business and job and residential development.
Mr. Cranley, to you for 30 seconds.
Businesses need a workforce ready to work. And I've announced a policy to reduce the poverty rate by 5% by investing in jobs and job training for the long-term unemployed, so that as employers are looking to a community, they see a workforce that is not only obviously wanting jobs, but has the skill set to do the jobs. And so job training is an investment that I'm willing to make. But the other thing, companies need to know that we have our fiscal house in order. Under my opponent's watch, the credit of the city has been downgraded. The pension crisis is looming. I have the experience to balance our budget by saying no to wasteful spending.
And WCPO politics and government reporter Kevin Osborne has our next question. First to Ms. Qualls. Kevin.
During the past 12 years, the cost to provide health insurance for city workers has increased 247%. So what role do you think labor union contracts have played in that? And what specific steps would you take to contain costs?
What we know when we're looking at the increase in the city's operating budget and the cost is that there are two primary drivers of that. One is health care, and you're absolutely right, Kevin, with the statistic, over 250% increase. And the other actually is our contributions to the pension fund. Those have significantly increased, in fact, by over 50%. The question with health care is, are there other options? Are there other ways of approaching health care? And from my perspective, we have, I think, willing partners in our collective bargaining units to look at how to bring those costs under control. So many things need to be put on the table, and when I'm mayor, they will be put on the table. One, do we need to restructure our health care to offer people a menu of options that will actually changes what their copays are as well as their premium? Do we need to actually look at potentially what are called MERPs that would also save money by, if your spouse or partner has access to other health care, that you would be on their policy. There are ways of controlling costs, and as mayor, we will look at those ways.
And Mr. Cranley, you have 90 seconds.
Well, yeah, it's obviously a major issue, and we have to work with our unions as partners for the future of the city. And I think what they want to know first and foremost is, are we going to protect them in their job and safety and quality, making sure we have enough firefighters to go into burning buildings, making sure we have enough cops on the street to deal with the 911 calls that are going in too fast, and making sure we have enough sanitation garbage workers to do a good job of cleaning up the blight and the litter. I'm proud to say that the police and the fire unions have supported me, but they know, and I know, that we've got budget crisis, and we intend to be partners to reduce those costs in the future. And I think we've got to do that in a way of a partnership, putting the basics first, the priorities first, but then saying, hey, what are we going to do together to reduce costs on a going forward basis? It's not going to be easy, but I've had to balance budgets. I've started a business. I've created jobs. And you can't spend money you don't have. And so I think it's important that we elect someone who knows what it's like to create jobs in the private sector, to balance a budget, and that's the leadership that I bring to this job. And I'm proud of that work, and I intend to use it to work with our police and fire to reduce the cost. I also think we've got to end abusive practices, like allowing people who have new jobs after retirement that have health care, turning it down and staying on the city health care plan. That's wrong. The pension reforms that we need to take on a prospective basis include getting rid of abusive practices like saving up sick and vacation time. I'll be tough because I think it's important to be balanced.
And Ms. Qualls, to you for 30 seconds.
We have, over the last 13 years, actually reduced our general fund operating costs by over 40%. I'm sorry, personnel by over 40%. But when you look at general operating costs, basically, over 13 years, we haven't seen a change, and that's because of health care and pension costs. We have to reform the pension and system, and we've done that already for future retirees. We've put in place sweeping pension reforms, but now we also have to attack the actual current unfunded liability. And there is a solution to that. It will be a little difficult, but we can do it and be back on the right course.
We want to hear now from another voter via video. She wants to know now about building better relationships between local governments.
My name is Lucia Hudson. I'm from the College Hill community, and I want to know, what can the city of Cincinnati do to forge a better relationship with the Hamilton County government? And what would you personally do to ensure that it's improved?
And Mr. Cranley, you can answer first for 60 seconds.
Well, I intend to work with our county and all of our regional leaders to move this community forward. And the first thing we've got to do is stop fighting with Hamilton County. We are under a federal consent decree to fix our sewers. Our sewers are polluting our underground soils right now. They've got to be fixed. They've lasted 140 years, but they've got to be fixed now. As I often say, you may or may not ride a streetcar, but we all need that toilet to flush. My opponent and her colleagues passed a law on a sewer system that's owned by the county that has led to litigation and work stoppages and fighting. Look, we all have an interest in the sewers getting fixed. Get the job done. Stop picking fights with the county. My opponent also oversaw the destruction of the Shared Services Commission, which the private sector was actually paying for a study to help us figure out how to get past turf wars and bureaucracy and save taxpayer money. So I intend to end the fighting with Hamilton County and start collaborating with Hamilton County to get the best value for the tax dollar moving forward.
Ms. Qualls, to you for 90 seconds.
Well, Last Friday, Commissioner Hartman and I were holding a kind of joint panel with some lifelong learners from Miami University, and we were talking about what could we do to actually cooperate more fully and move this community forward, not just as the city and the county, but city-county together and all of the other communities. And we looked at certain things. Basically, what we know is that we need to take a hard look at shared services, and Greg Hartman and I actually authored the shared services motion that passed City Council and in his instance passed the Commission. And we're both committed that we will, working with the other commissioners as well as the new council, put that in place.